Hello. Well, I'd like to talk today about a book I have, a piece of music I have by Beethoven. And it's called the Grand Septour, which is a septet for 7 instruments. But this arrangement is done by Beethoven himself. The arrangement is for piano, 4 hands piano, a duet. And it's a very old book. Matter of fact, this is 200 years old, and this was printed from plates way back, and I'll be showing you plenty of pictures here as we go along. But how in the heck did I get this book when this is the only one in the United States besides the one in the Library of Congress? And then there's another one in the world. There's a few other ones in the world. One at the Beethoven House in Bonn, Germany. And then there's 3 other ones in England that are owned by private collectors. So I can tell you a little bit about the story here. In the late 1980s, when my brother Kevin, the drummer, lived in Hollywood, California, he was going to the Percussion Institute of Technology, and then we would make visits there. And then I opened up a phone book one time and I was looking for sheet music stores. So I came across this sheet music store called Globe Music. And when we went there on Santa Monica Boulevard, it was, we opened the door and it had this really old book smell that I'm smelling right now. It's the same smell. And this was so long ago. And anyway, this shop was run by, at the time, a 92-year-old violinist by the name of Benjamin Rosen. And over many trips, I went through the stacks of music that he had. And at first appearance, it was like, we are definitely in the wrong place. Okay, this is not what we're looking for. But anyway, I gave it a chance, and I said, well, let me just look around. And then I was just stunned at all of the old stuff, you know. So my goal was to try to get the old stuff and just, you know, buy it for a relatively low price. This guy was liquidating everything. He's 92. He wants to get rid of everything. But he was very sharp, and I have plenty of pictures of him because the whole experience was awesome. I mean, he was very intelligent, and we had very good conversations about music and other topics. But anyway, that's how I got the book in 1988, and apparently he got the book in his collection either from people who brought in music that was in their attics and they didn't want it anymore, or Benjamin did make a trip to New York in the 1950s and could have gotten the book from Ralph Howard Pendleton, which there's some address stickers in here, and even on the cover page of his address. So I did some research on Ralph Howard Pendleton and come to find out he was kind of a well-known figure around the turn of the last century, around 1900. But anyway, there is, this book here is going to be out of my possession tomorrow, which is what, July 3rd? Yeah, July 3rd, 2017. This is going to the San Jose State University in California. They want it. So they will have the copy besides the Library of Congress. It's an interesting piece. There's several things that I had to research about this piece. Okay, this dates back to 1817, and in the pages, many of the pages, there's a watermark, as you can see here in the pictures. There's a watermark dated 1817, and that's what the woman at the San Jose State University in the Beethoven Center asked me to look for. And I mean, this I just discovered recently within a month ago, 2 months. And she says, well, you know, hold the pages up to the light and see if you can find a watermark. So I opened the first page and there wasn't one, and second page I don't think there was one. And then as I got to the other pages, I mean, you have no idea the reaction I had when I could see this only through that light shining behind the paper. It said 1817, so I was like, wow, this book is legit. I mean, this, you can see the indentations from the engraving plates, and I just I'm glad to have it, but I'm glad to get it into the hands of the Beethoven Center in California at the San Jose State University. But let me go ahead and read a few things about this piece, and I think you'll find it interesting, as I do. Okay, let's see. This is the Grand Septour, Opus 20, arranged as a duet for 2 performers on 1 pianoforte. And the bottom of the title page, this is by the author. So this arrangement is by Beethoven himself. Okay, and this, I believe, is the first edition of the Grand Septour, Opus 20, printed in London, the first London edition. Okay, and it was printed by Clemente and Company. The address was 26 Cheapside. The date of publication of this arrangement by Beethoven is 1817. Okay, reissue of this arrangement, this Clemente publication, was published in 1820 by Chapel, 50 Bond Street, London. There is reason to believe this Grand Septour arrangement for duet on the pianoforte is the first edition and printed first by Clemente and Company. Beethoven gave rights to Clemente to publish his works. They both met in 1807. Clemente was 18 years older, and Beethoven looked up to Clemente, considering him to be his favorite pianist. The Septour, or septet, for 7 instruments was originally published in 1802 by Hofmeister and Cunel. That was the first publication of the septet for 7 instruments: clarinet, bassoon, horn, violin, viola, cello, bass. The septet was first composed by Beethoven in 1799. Beethoven personally arranged a trio edition for either clarinet or violin with cello and piano. It was published in 1805 as Opus 38 by A. Mayence Ches C. Zolchner. You can see the catalog of printed music, London. Let's see, the septet, Opus 20, was also arranged as a quintet for 2 violins, 2 tenors, and violoncello. This arrangement was published by London, Clemente and Company. Soon after the Grand Septour's premiere, it became very popular among amateur musicians of the time. It appeared in transcriptions for solo piano, 2 guitars, piano 4 hands, piano quartet, and Beethoven's own trio arrangement, as stated above. Research indicates the Beethoven arrangement as a duet for pianoforte is first edition, published by Clemente and Company, and a year later reissued by Chapel. All right, let's see if I have more important information. Let's give a little more background here. It was like when I was researching this, I had to put together all the pieces of the puzzle, you know, and it became clearer as time went on the value of this piece. Clemente was born in 1752 and died in 1832. Beethoven was born in 1770 and died in 1827, so their lives did overlap. The Clemente and Company publishing firm started in 1798. The address was 26 Cheapside. where the Longman and Broderick piano factory was located. They bought all of Longman and Broderick's plates in stock and reprinted music. The Clemente and Company lasted until 1830, 3 years after Beethoven's death and 2 years before Clemente's death at age 80. His possessions of the business were auctioned off a few years later. That included instruments and the plates. You wonder whatever happened to them plates. Wow. A disaster that if they got discarded. Clemente and Beethoven made business arrangements or agreements for the sales of Beethoven's music in England, and Beethoven favored the English pianoforte because of the dynamic qualities that the Viennese instruments were lacking. The Clemente and Company were known for their great pianos. You can check out www.squarepianotech.com. In 1807, Beethoven and Clemente struck a deal which would give Clemente publishing rights to all of Beethoven's music. Okay, let's see. In its original form, the septet made its public debut along with the First Symphony at the Royal Imperial Court Theatre on April 2nd, 1800, at Beethoven's first Viennese Academy, a benefit concert for the composer himself. Over the years, Beethoven never quite forgave the septet for its enormous popularity, yet its sole crimes were its youthful charm and immediate appeal. Even today, the septet in E-flat, Opus 20, remains arguably the finest septet ever written. Clemente was a very prolific composer. If you look up Clemente on YouTube, you're going to find tons of material, okay? He was considered one of the great pianists of all time, okay? Now, there was a duel that Clemente and Mozart had, actually, the Mozart and Clemente duel. On Christmas Eve in 1782, Clemente competed with Mozart in a musical competition in the presence of Emperor Joseph II and the Russian Tsar Paul I without suffering any damages to his name. Mozart had his strengths, and so did Clemente, by displaying difficult passages of thirds in the right hand. Okay, so Mozart didn't show up Clemente. Okay, it was an even match. Okay, and you can find out more about that duel on the internet, and you'll hear different opinions on it too. Okay, and most likely when he met with Clemente, he handed this to him and said, hey, here's the manuscript. This is a duet version for piano, four hands. I want you to publish this in London. And that's the story behind that. Let's see if I can add more to this piece of music. From 1802 until 1810, Clemente went on a long journey to the continent, selling his own and other works to publishers and accepting the works of other composers for publishing purposes. In April 1807, he met Beethoven in Vienna. In a letter to his business partner Collard, he described the meeting. According to Clemente, Beethoven started grinning at Clemente in public places. Of course, he tried hard not to discourage the young composer. Finally, he was able to conquer the haughty, beauty Beethoven, a term that may be interpreted in various ways to encompass various meanings from proud to noble to uppish. When Clemente first visited Beethoven at his place, he effusively praised some of his compositions and was able finally to conclude an agreement covering the following pieces: the Fourth Piano Concert, Opus 58, the Three String Quartets, Opus 59, the Fourth Symphony, Opus 60, the Violin Concert, Opus 61, and an adaptation of the Piano Concert, as well as the Coriolan Overture, Opus 62. Beethoven received £200. Okay, Clemente is a highly underrated figure in the music world. He is widely regarded by scholars as the creator of both the modern piano as an instrument and the father of modern piano playing. Beethoven was an extremely prolific composer, churning out multitudes of compositions and arrangements. It is true that in a composer's life there are arrangements and compositions that get lost in the shuffle, or information that is lost concerning its origins and attributions. Thus, it is safe to believe we can rely on the integrity of the Clemente Company publishing firm to have correctly attributed the septet, Opus 20, duet for two performers on the pianoforte to be arranged by the author, Beethoven, as it implicitly states on the cover. The title page cover marked 1817. The time was right. The title page, or I'm talking about, I should have written here the watermarks. We know this is from 1817. It's all throughout the book. The time was right. The composers were alive, and it is invariably true that Beethoven gave the arrangement to Clemente to publish. So there you have it. I am going to depart with this book after owning it for almost 30 years. I didn't know what I had. I didn't know what I had. And I have more sheet music of Beethoven and Mozart, and a lot of it's really old, but I have to take piece by piece and see the history behind it. But anyway, this has been fun for me in the last couple months researching this piece. So that's all I have for you today about Beethoven's Grand Septour, the septet. Check it out on YouTube, some of the performances, and get to know the piece. It's pretty darn awesome.